crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Yeah. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made up. Get in the game, your moment of fame, show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up. It's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up. My time, nothing can keep me from reaching the top. This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride. I'm ready to throw down, it's time for the showdown. I'm ready to rise, don't be surprised, I'll take on the world now. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We reaching the top, we reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We reaching the top, we reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Turning the track up, I'll never go back down. Hand over my heart, I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop.
race meeting number 8 for these drivers in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge, as we say hello and welcome to the legendary Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, and welcome to one of motorsport's icons. It's a track that all drivers love coming to, and today 30 up-and-coming drivers are looking to make their mark here as they race not only for prize money, but also for the opportunity to maybe be noticed by a team and maybe start thinking about moving up towards the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. My name is Will Vincent. Conor Maddock and Paul Smith will be on commentary as we move forward in this broadcast. Let's have a look then at this track, and after being in Brands Hatch a couple of weeks ago, we now head ourselves over to Belgium, to the Ardennes Mountains, and to a track which is quite literally set up in the mountains. In 1998, there was a TV company that once went to an advert break. It was dry, and then it was lashing it down with rain. That's how fast conditions can change at this racetrack. But here today, we're looking at this track, and of course, we start with the famous Air Rouge Raidillon section. The left-hander at Air Rouge, and the right and the left up at Raidillon. Then you come into one of your first big passing opportunities of the track down at Le Combe. And of course, the Jackie X corner you can see at the top of your screen right then, renamed from Speaker's Corner, Stavelot 1, Stavelot 2, and then your second best passing opportunity down at the bus stop chicane. La Source is a good place to overtake. However, you've got to make sure you don't run your car too wide. And again, you can just look at how that track is nestled in amongst the forest here in Belgium. So let's have a look at your championship standings coming into this event. They'll be up in just one moment's time. And it is Marina Surica with 268 points, leading from England's Peter Berriman with 244. Finland's Antti Ahola in third place, and Cooper Webster in fourth, with Kim Eriksson, Thomas Gibson, Simone Maria Marcello, Oscar Mangan, Matti Sippola, and Mikael Gade rounding out your top 10. And at this point, I'm going to bring in our analyst, Paul Smith. And Paul, we look at that top 3, and it really is now a top 3 battle for all intents and purposes in terms of the championship. Surica, 268 points, Berriman 244, and Antti Ahola at 233, with just a few races remaining.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can see the schedule up on screen right now, and yeah, the championship is really tight between those 3, and it's interesting to see about the actual prize winnings that they've had as well from the series. Pete Berriman has had the least amount of prize winnings. He's only won one race as Pete out of this, and that was last time out at Brands Hatch. So he's really got to try and get as much as he can through these final couple of rounds of the championship coming up. So we're off to Le Mans next, and then Monza for the final round of this series. But yeah, it's going to be really intriguing to see how Surica, Berriman and Antti Ahola as well work out. I was impressed early on with Cooper Webster, but he just seems to have just fallen back that little bit too far to be able to compete. But you never write anybody out in this series.
You don't, and one of the things we often see in these longer championships spaced out over a couple of months, so a number of months, is that the ability to actually compete on a week-on-week basis with all your other sim racing, real-life commitments, they do often lead to a difficult situation. And of course, we've got, as I say, after this race, Circuit de la Sarthe on September the 26th, and then we've got Monza on October the 10th. So only 3 races now remaining in this championship. But with that, qualifying is underway. So let's hand it to the commentators. Of course, we talked to Paul already, but your lead commentator, Conor Maddock, take it away.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Well, like you said, it is Spa, one of the most legendary race tracks on this earth. Drivers out there for qualifying at the moment. They have a 12-minute session to get 2 flying laps in. We've got about 9 minutes of the qualifying session left to go here today. No drivers have come across the line to set their provisional times at the moment. Their first of 2 flying laps, of course, but they're getting very, very close to doing so. As Paul, qualifying around here can be very, very tricky indeed, especially considering how easy it is to get an off track here. If you get that 1x, then that means your lap is going to be invalid. So it's a task to even get a clean lap in here sometimes.
It is a tricky track with the track limits right here, so these drivers will be driving with care to try and keep within those track limits. So places like the corner we've just been round, Jackie X corner, exit of Poor or the middle of Poor. If you push too wide over the curb there, you can invalidate your lap there. There's so many spots around this track where you can just get that lap wiped out, and then you have to start again, and with you only having 2 laps to set that time, all of a sudden the pressure gets really on for that second lap.
Running on board with Simone Maria Marcheno. He's had a little bit of an up and down season. He started off on a brilliant foot at Zandvoort by picking up the first race win of the season, but since then he's got himself involved in a couple of incidents during the races. Remember that heartbreak at Silverstone with the contact with Mikael Gard coming into the latter portions of that race. He's been trying to recover ever since, and Spa might be a good opportunity for him. He finished 4th in the last round that he took part in, but he did not appear in round number 8 of this championship. That was Brands Hatch last time out, so he's going to have to take the points loss from that, but he's still solidly inside the top 10 as far as points go, and is looking for a decent haul here today.
Certainly is. We're finally getting potential some lap times coming up, I would hope. Well, Marcheno, that's the only lap time we've got at the moment. 28.293, although now the times are starting to come in. Cooper Webster to the top of your standings. I mentioned about him maybe just falling back a little bit. Well, there you go, right to the top of the point standings. Notable drivers who have only just started their laps, one of which is Peter Berriman, the championship contenders. He's only just starting his first lap right now, so he's been spending a lap preparing his car. And the thing with this track is it's a long circuit. It's 7 kilometers in length here. You cannot waste time warming up your tyres and preparing your car, because you've got a limited amount of time to set your lap times. And in fact, Pete Berriman gives up on that. And that's going to be, is that going to be, well, he's going to have another go at it, but time is running out. And this is what I'm talking about, Connery. You can't waste any time. You've got to get on to it.
Yeah, he will have time to get back out there, and he has done so. But it'll just be that last-ditch attempt at the very end of the session for Peter Berriman to even get a lap time. This is a character, though, that has been quite interesting throughout this series. He's been excluded from races, he's been disqualified from an event, but Mikael Gard still continuing on here in this series despite everything that has happened to him, and despite the wrath of the stewards that he's incurred. He's still 10th in the point standing, and he's about 1 point behind Matti Sipilä, so it's definitely worth him continuing on despite the problems, shall we say.
Yeah, he's been quite a divisive figure in the championship, it would seem, and he's certainly, he's aggressive, I think is the word that I would use, but I think he needs to just channel that aggression in a more focused way and not getting himself involved in silly incidents like he has done so far this season. And that really is got, in fact, he's going to park up on that one. He's given up on that lap. That's him off and away, so he can't set a second lap time here, but he is second place. So yeah, so he's been quite a divisive figure out there, and quite a few of the drivers have made their feelings known throughout the season, but he is incredibly quick. If he could just channel it better and focus, he would be a really, really top guy.
I have had the luxury of commentating on one of the Danish championships where he was always very, very strong, and he's has been able to channel it into this series in some instances, but like you said, he just needs to calm down a little bit, maybe tone down the aggression, and maybe he'll be able to get some good consistent results on the board. But there's Peter Berryman out there. He's coming towards the end of an outlap here, as he had to abandon his first lap. Into the bus stop he goes, making sure that those tires and pressures are up to temperature. But the thing is, for Pete Berryman here, they're still not going to be in the ideal window on this flying lap. It's going to be still pretty tough for him, because these cars, well, they take more than just that one lap to try and get into their optimal window.
Yeah, that's it. That's why I was surprised, actually, that he just pulled straight over. I was surprised that he didn't carry on, just get more heat and tire pressure into air pressure into those tires, so that they would be in that prime optimal window. But Pete, he's gone out there and he's got one lap to do it, and he's got to try and do it. Marcheno, by the way, did not set a valid lap time on his second lap, so he won't be improving. Cooper Murray up into third place. Look at how close that top of the standings is right there. You can see it on the left-hand side of your screen. 0.4 of a second, well, nearly 0.5 of a second, covering 12 cars in your grid here.
And it's 4 cars inside the single 10th of a second at the very front. So things very, very tight here in qualifying as we continue to have a look at that Apex Racing team car of Peter Berryman, identified with the green wing mirrors, of course, into Ravage, downhill right-hander. You continue the descent then into, well, a corner that has a name now, Jackie Ick's corner. Left-hander, careful not to go too wide out there. It's inviting with the runoff that you're given, but you will get a 1x if you do that and get your lap invalid now into one of the best sections. Pouon, double left-hander, downhill. Car on the absolute limit of grip in no matter what car they take around there. And then you look through a braking zone into Lafaunia. And Peter Berryman, it looks like it's a tidy lap so far. And I think tidy is just going to be enough to secure him a grid spot, maybe just inside the top 10.
Now, it's worth pointing out here as well, talking about how tricky it is to set a lap time and to get a qualifying time. 2 drivers have had their 2 laps and have failed to score a lap time. One is Michael Johnson in the number 3 car, but more importantly, Matti Sipilä in the number 11 car has had 2 laps, both of them invalid. He's starting from the back of the field.
Yeah, no ifs or buts about it. Berryman, will he have the same fate? It looks like he's been tidy on this lap and hasn't decided to abandon it, so you would have thought on the brakes into the bus stop he's clear to just get the lap time in, no matter how fast it is. Out of the final corner he comes, and to the start-finish line he goes. Across the line, you get 2:28.3 there for Berryman. Good enough to put him up into P5 there. That's a good result considering that he didn't have that first banker lap.
Yeah, that's a really good effort. It was on a par with Marcheno. There's just one driver out there at the moment on a lap, I believe, and he's further down. That is Moon. And Jamie Moon, yeah, he's on his second lap right now, and he is not going to make it in time. So see, this is again your timing, getting it right, coming out of the pits. Jamie Moon, he's on his second lap. If he could have finished it, he would, but he's going to run out of time here. So it shows how important it is to get those times in.
Yeah, he's on the track map, at least my live track map. He's heading into Lafaunia, and 20 seconds left remaining. Not going to happen, unfortunately, for the driver of the number 12. So the order that you see on the left-hand side of your screen is going to be the order, is going to be the starting grid for this round of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge. Time has now expired in qualifying, and we're just about to get ourselves the starting grid for round number 9. So Webster on pole position there with Mick Elgaard also on the front row. But we have a little bit of time here just to calm our nerves and get the drivers onto the grid for the start of this race. Of course, they're using the Grand Prix pits here in this instance, so the exact same one that you see in the likes of Formula 1. La Source will be turn number 1 here today, as opposed to the old pits where Eau Rouge is turn number 1. But we'll just go through the starting grid then. Cooper Webster on pole position, Mick Elgaard in P2. Cooper Murray will start in 3rd place with Simone Maria Marcheno in 4th. Peter Berryman starts 5th with Moreno Sarica in 6th. You've got Kim Eriksson, P7, Yannick Lapchan in P8, Pekka Toivonen 9th, and Oscar Mangen now starts in 10th place. Leon Rudinger starts in 11th with Antiohola 12th. Camilio Pezzoli starts 13th here today with Thomas Gerstenberg in 14th. Quentin Guinness in 15th place. Ronaldo Lorena in 16th. Cody Bircher starts in 17th. Thomas Gibson in P18. Jack Boyd P19. Jamie Moon, after not having set his second lap, starts in 20th. We have Handgraf in P21, Moof in 22nd, Sirotech P23 for him, Abromantis P24, Gallo 25th, Swan in 26th, and Arzt in 27th. And those drivers that did not set a lap time at all in qualifying, Sippola, Johnson, and Waite, will bring things down to P30 on the starting grid here today at Spa, as we are just about 15 seconds away from getting the green flag here. And that very short run, of course, all the way into La Source. Very tight right-hand hairpin to start off this race. But we're just about to get started then. Drivers are ready, and we're off and away. There they go. Cooper Webster from pole position leads the pack into turn number 1. Everyone's swarming behind, though. Not a lot of opportunity to get single file before the first turn arrives of Last Source. You can see them all 2 by 2. There's a Corsim racing car that got spat out towards the outside there. That was Oscar Mangen losing a good couple of spots. Now they run down the hill across the old grid spots and into Eau Rouge and Radion for the first time. Most of everyone single file, but there's a slider at the back and cars going wide as well. Rudinger has lost the car, and luckily no one else got caught up in that one. But look towards the front though, because they're going 3 wide here for P number 6 and back. Lapchan, Eriksson, Sarica. There's Toivonen looking to get 4 wide there. I'm pretty sure that won't work. Sarica though on the inside, able to get both of those cars done in terms of the overtakes there. So action here on the first lap as they head their way through Malmedy. Now next braking zone downhill in towards Rivage as they're still continuing to scrap for positions. Lapchan and Toivonen further back are having their own little battle in this one, but everyone else seems to have calmed down a little after that frantic first half of lap.
I thought it was absolutely incredible that we didn't have a monster accident up at Radion there. Great stuff. Great job from Rudinger to get on to the brakes and to keep it out the way. So that was really well held from him. But yeah, the guys at the front then, Webster trying to pull away here from Gard, but Gard is under serious pressure from Simone Maria Marcheno, who, well, he was one of the drivers who's had a run-in with Gard in the past right now, but here they come through, and I believe Marcheno's just a little bit of the front end just pushed in slightly, so with that all checking up at the start down to La Source, it's all just had a little bit of bumping and barging as they head on through towards Blanchimont for the first time.
There seems to have been a little bit of bumper banging, and Marcheno actually a little slow in a straight line here. You can see him get caught by Cooper Murray, as Murray looking for the overtake perhaps into the bus stop. He certainly has the speed. Marcheno has nothing in the straight line to be able to try and deal with this, but somehow still able to hold position into that very slow bus stop chicane to complete lap number 1. So the order, Webster, Gard, Marcheno, Murray, Berryman are your top 5 here. And Webster leads by about 0.8 of a second already. You see a big look there. Big dive, though, for Sarica, one of the Williams Esports cars in the background. Big lunge on Berryman. You can see that now as they'll try to go side by side down the old pit straight. But it's probably best advised to go single file here into Eau Rouge.
Yeah, as they go down through into Radion, climb up that hill. I know everybody, it's a cliche now, but it really does not give you the impression of just how steep that hill is, that's for sure. But it's all uphill all the way up towards Le Camp, and you could really, it helps you with your braking. You could get braking late. And speaking of braking late, Berryman running wide there. Sarica to the inside at Malmedy, and here comes one of the drivers as we show the replay of that instant on lap 1.
Sometimes the timings on the replays are unfortunate, but that's the little moment into Eau Rouge and Radion that rooting ahead on the first lap there. And big slide, and, well, I'll say 2 words: cold tires. Good avoidance from that car behind, though, number 48, which I believe was Petzoli.
Moment, a little bit of a moment. That was a brown trouser time, that was. They went through there. You think you're going to be heading up for a big accident, but did well to keep it out of those tyres. So very well indeed. But you can see live pictures then, so we're looking at Guard, and Webster's not really pulling away. We have seen with previous rounds of this championship, Connery, the slipstream isn't the most effective in this car. And that means that you've got to be really within sort of this sort of distance of 0.6 of a second to be able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and, well, Sarika and Berryman have dropped off the leading train right now, which is what you see up on screen. Webster hasn't been able to pull out a similar gap, though. He's actually lost time on this lap. It was about 7/8 of a second into last source on the lap previous, and now it's sitting about 0.6 of a second. So he is being caught slowly but steadily by Guard, Marciano, Murray involved in this as well. As through the bus stop chicane once again, and across the line to complete lap number 2. So the order hasn't really changed all that much inside of this leading pack. Marciano is up 1 position, Murray losing 1. Sarika also gaining 1 here early on, but no one really inside the top 10 has been pulling off absolutely massive moves in the early portions of this race. Everyone is pretty much more or less where they started.
Well, I could tell you 2 people who've made some good moves further down the order, though. Thomas Gibson up 5 spots. And Matti Sipola, who of course had to start at the back of the grid, is up 8 positions here from the start of the race. So he's on a charge as we look at that front gaggle of cars heading up the Kemmel straight there. But yeah, these drivers, they are working their way through, as that Fat Sipler has moved up another spot, and Antiola to the inside of his teammate there.
Yeah, careful here, boys. The 2 Kova Esports teammates. Hopefully they don't make a bit of contact. Speaking of contact, though, Mangan, wow, massive block from Toivonen on the way into Ravage. That was a bit forceful there from the Finn, and Mangan will give him a shot to the back bumper through Ravage to tell him how unhappy he was about that.
Wow, that's it. It was quite aggressive. It was slamming the door in your face and hitting his nose was pretty much what that was. As yeah, Mangan, he is somebody who is a quick driver. He is generally a fair driver as well. He will make those moves and make them stick, and he's putting the pressure on here in towards Fania once again. You see him just coming through the picture there, but Toivonen very aggressive with that defensive move.
Yeah, into Stavolo. You see they're really teasing with the grass on the entry to that corner. Now through Curva Paul Fret. Sets you up for a decent run all the way on this long run through the slight right, and then the slight left of turn 16, then turn 17 will be Blanchimont, that very quick left-hander, where sometimes can be a bit daring, they overtake through there, but not in this race so far. Maybe when we get in towards the latter portions, we'll see some brave drivers attempt moves coming through there. But having a look back towards the front of your field, there's the leading train of 4 cars, and you can see the separation between that leading train and the rest of the pack here. The rest of the pack train, that's led by the Williams Esports car that you see in shot right now. That is Moreno Sarika, quickly being followed by Peter Berryman, who still can't seem to find a way by, but he's got a good run out of that source.
Certainly has, and Berryman, he's biding his time a little bit here. You think, in terms of the championship standings, you know, it's Sarika who's leading, Berryman who's second. So Berryman does want to finish ahead of Moreno here, and he does want to try and get on to the drivers in front to make those moves. So really, Berryman just showing his nose. He's reminding Moreno that he is there, and he is putting the pressure on, but that's important for the championship. Further down, Jamie Moon and Cody Butcher, making some moves amongst themselves here.
Yeah, I saw a big block there from from Butcher trying to basically force Moon onto the grass, and you can see the flashing of the headlights. Jamie certainly isn't happy about that in the full send racing car, trying to fight with the prologue machine. But yeah, I mean, that was a big forceful defensive move down the Kemmel tricks, so I can understand the frustration of that driver now behind that blue car. But I mean, we've seen some forceful defending moves already, so it probably won't be the end of it here.
Yeah, it's a striking livery on that full send racing car, that's for sure, of Moon. But he just ran a little bit wide through Heuer there, and that will just compromise him again, missing his apex through the first part of Lavagna. And here comes Jack Boyd now, starting to put the pressure on Moon instead. So he's had to defend from one driver who tried to attack in retaliation, but now he's got the car of Jack Boyd, and Matty Sipler isn't that far behind either.
He isn't. He really, really isn't. Your race leader has been, for all intents and purposes, caught at the moment. It's probably fair to say. So it is definitely a tight-knit pack for P1. The four of them into the braking zone of the bus stop. Heavy over the curb there from Webster, though. Doesn't seem to have sacrificed a lot of speed by doing that, but you do have to be careful. Those curbs can be relatively vicious. As there's the battle for the lead. Webster, Guard, Marciano, Murray in that order. All covered by just a good couple of tenths of a second. And I'm very interested to see how this one plays out, because if they stay this tight coming into the final 1 or 2 laps, then we could have a grandstand finish of all grandstand finishes. And I think we've had plenty of those so far in this season. And the same thing here at Spa. Maybe that will happen. But Guard taking a huge amount of runoff coming out of the Radeon there, trying to find all the speed. But again, you can't do anything with it right now into the Coom, and it's going to stay in line. Just showing the nose into the braking zone, but nothing all that threatening.
Yeah, he's making liberal use of the track limits here. Let's just say that on the exit of Radeon to try and carry as much speed up the Kemmel straight there. But this tight pack of 4 at the front, covered by less than a second between the 4 of them. So that shows you how tightly together they are. And they're doing a great job, although Murray just running a little bit wide through Jackie's corner, able to keep onto the tail of them. And Sarika, he's there or thereabouts, but he's not quite getting close enough. Interesting to point out as well, Mikael Guard, fastest lap of the race, a 28.5 for him. So Webster hasn't even set a valid lap time all race long.
Yeah, and you know, these drivers, they do have an instant limit, 25. So yeah. More than your usual official iRacing race, because that usually stands at 17, but a little bit more leeway given here in this event with the 25 set as the limit. So I think some drivers have taken that as permission to explore the track limits. As Cooper Murray really closing in on Marciano at the moment. Marciano lost a lot of speed through Curve Paul Fret. Murray can't do anything through Blanchimont, but can he do anything on the exit of it? It looks like he's got a good run, looking to the outside into the bus stop. They get so close. Move for the race lead as well. Mikael Guard down the inside of Webster, and he's been able to make the pass complete. So Guard now leads this race with 3 laps to go.
Yeah, so Guard deciding to pull the trigger on this one. He knows that he's got a quick car there, and he wants to get to the front and to try and pull away. It's going to be very difficult to do that, though. Oh, he got it a little bit wrong. Had to park it on the apex of La Source. And now here comes Simone Maria Marciano on his teammate of Cooper Webster. Don't fight amongst yourselves here, guys. Work together. Try and work together to get that lead back again for your outfit. As Guard really cut wide, cut across the inside of Radeon. Cooper Webster running wide out of Radeon. And now, I think he's got a little bit of a slowdown penalty potentially as Webster. And that's allowed Marciano through. Here comes Murray now.
Yeah, Murray to the inside. And he's just about held it around the outside and inside now for Malmedy, and he's been able to make the pass work, and it's everyone stacked up now because that gap that the front four had to the rest of the pack, that is absolutely nothing. So Sarika is in this, looking for the inside, tags Webster around, and Berryman's involved in it as well, out into the gravel.
Oh, now that is going to be... Oh, that'll be something that the stewards will look at there. It's the slightest of contacts, but Sarika, he showed his nose and just makes that tiniest of contacts. And Pete Berryman, his championship rival, is the one involved. You see the replay there. Cooper Webster as well involved in that one, ended up in the gravel trap at Rivage. But yeah, that could have actually serious outcome after the race, after a stewards review.
Yeah, and, well, it wouldn't be a Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge race without a little bit of drama towards the end of the event. That's probably safe to say. But 5 minutes, 40 seconds left in this race. You can see one of those cars out very wide there through Curvapole. I believe that might have been Murray going out very wide and trying to maintain as much speed as possible on the run through towards Blanchimont. There's the battle for the race lead once again. Got Marciano, Murray, Sarika. Sarika looking particularly potent here and particularly threatening, but maybe a little bit too much. Goes very deep on the brakes into the bus stop, and now he'll have a bit of a task trying to keep Kim Eriksson behind him.
Yeah, Ericsson's a feisty character in that Black Star racing car. He'll certainly make some moves. And look at the queue of traffic behind Yannick Lapchan as well. You've got Ahola, Toivonen, Mangan, Garstenberg, Gibson, Gunes and Lorena as well, all together in that queue. It's just a case of, well, pick your number at the counter and wait for it to be called, because these guys, they're queuing up for a move here.
Yep, they really are. So multiple places to try and keep track of this right now. There's the little group for the race lead as Guard tries to gap these guys, and well, he's got half a second on them at the moment in that pink in that pink machine at the very front of the field. There's the two Kova cars continuing their way around. Ahola and Toivonen trying to lock onto the back of Lapchan, and Lapchan really struggled there through Lacombe, and now on the way into Rivage, defensive line taken by Lapchan. Ahola wasn't looking for the move, he was just poised there, ready and waiting. So if Lapchan made a mistake, then he was there, ready for the taking, but now he perhaps has to manufacture his own opportunity. Good run out of Jackie X corner, but a run down in towards Pouon. I mean, Pouon's not really an overtaking spot traditionally. Very wide through the corner, though, Marciano. This is back towards the front of the field. This is just allowing Mikael Gard to stretch his legs and get away from these guys, because if Marciano and Murray are scrapping even more, then the race win is basically in Gard's hands already.
Yeah, he's got a second lead now, so this means that he's pretty much broken that slipstream at the front of your field. And with time running out, I mean, we're only going to get about 2 more laps of this race when they cross the line. So these guys are all duking it out, and they are giving us absolutely everything. It's an entertaining race, that's for sure, to watch here, and I'm glad you're all joining us here. But Marciano just seems to be, with that little bit of front end damage, just seems to be a little bit of a sitting duck compared to Murray, Sarika and Eriksson.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting about whether we'll get one more or not, because lap times are about 2 minutes 30 seconds, and we're coming up to about that remaining in the race as they head their way through the bus stop. So it all depends on where Mikael Gard heads his way across the line, and he does so now with 2 minutes and 33 seconds still left on the clock. So this one is going to be a little bit close here for the end of the event. It's all on for P2 though. Marciano and Murray still continuing on their little battle, and everyone else behind looking to try and haul themselves up onto the podium as well if they can get close enough.
Well, Marciano, the feisty Italian, you know that he will be one who will be pushing it. Oh, he's pushed those track limits. That's got to be a slowdown penalty, surely. Yeah, he's pulling over to the side. He's slowing down, and that's cost him second place. It's cost him a podium. It could cost him even more, but now Murray is coming under pressure from Sirica. Murray's off the track. Murray's in the grass. Will he be able to get it stopped? Well, he's going to have to cut across, and all of a sudden, Sirica is going to be up into second place here.
Yeah, absolute drama there as Murray. He'll have a massive slowdown penalty as a result of that. He's still going to try to fight with Sirica through Rivage. Surely he's not going to be able to hold on to this position. That's a huge corner cut there for the driver of the 36. So if the slowdown penalty isn't enough here, I would have thought the stewards would step in after the race to give him a humongous time penalty. But it looks like he's just about being able to get that one served. I have never seen anything like that. Unless there's still a little bit remaining, and in which case the iRacing system will disqualify him if he doesn't serve it in time. So more drama at the end of a Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge race, and we might even get one more lap of it, depending on if Mikael Gard takes the white flag or the checkered flag this time around. So it continues on here. Murray trying to hold on. I would have thought that he's still... Oh, look at that dooring on the replay.
Yeah.
Massive, massive moment there for Murray.
It was Sirica trying to get a little bit of a side draft there up the Camel Straight, and they just came together there. That unsettled Murray's car. He did very well to keep it out the barriers there, but now you can see them, Murray, Sirica and Ericsson, as they're heading into Blanchimont.
20 seconds through Blanchimont, so it's all on Gard's court now of whether to take them an extra lap or not. These guys have to treat it like the last lap with a potential dive into the bus stop, and that's exactly what Sirica has decided to do. Angles to the inside of the first apex, outside for the second apex. Can he get the runner speed off the corner? Across the line we come. We're going to go one more, Paul.
Yeah, this is going to be brilliant. A one-lap shootout for the second place here as Sirica to the inside. Oh my goodness! Talk about missing your break in Heuer. What on earth happened to him?
He must have had a hardware failure. Heuer isn't the kind of person to go at that rate or not intentionally into the last source hairpin. Wow, big moment there. Murray's basically out of this race now, but we continue on the live pictures because it's a battle for P3. Going out very wide, though, there is Marcheno. Toivonen has a runner speedo here over his compatriot. It's Black Star Racing versus Kuva, going to be on the brakes into the Lecombe then, and Toivonen around the outside is able to make this one work. He hasn't quite gone deep enough. Ericsson able to keep position. Marcheno's here, looking to challenge in the Altus car as well. He has his teammate behind him of Lapshan. It's all getting tight here for what is now an absolutely titanic battle for the final podium spot. Lapshan's looking for a move on his teammate, and Mangan might force him into it with a little bit of bumper banging, so he has no choice but to go side by side with his teammate through Rivage. Everyone scrapping it out behind, everyone trying to jostle for position, and we've still got about 2/3 of a lap to go in this one. So absolutely incredible stuff in towards Pouon now. Everyone's single file for the moment, but this one's going to go off with a bang, I think, through towards the bus stop at the end of the lap. Lorena in the background really pushed wide, so he cycled back and lost a lot of positions, but it's still everything here for P3. Gard and Sirica, P1, P2, they are pretty much clear as long as they can keep it on the grey stuff, but for P3, it's going to be a last lap desperation move, perhaps, for Toivonen. It is a Finn versus Finn coming out of Curva Paul Fret, and Toivonen just has to now sit in that slipstream, use it all the way through towards Blanchimont, through towards the bus stop, and try to make something happen on the brakes into there. As on the final lap then, final time through Blanchimont, final time coming up into the bus stop. Toivonen, he hasn't committed really here. Ericsson with the defensive line. He'll be able to keep ahead. Big scrap behind, though, between Altus and Corsim Racing teammates. But Gard, in a season where he crossed the line first 2 times previous to this and wasn't awarded with the race win, this one is for sure. Gard across the line. He wins at Spa.
That is sensational action once again. Brilliant stuff. These drivers give us absolute wall-to-wall entertainment to the very end. Wow, that was sensational stuff there, Connery.
There's gonna be, I think they're gonna have races like this for the last 2 rounds of the season, because it feels like it's pretty much been every race so far that it's had that amount of drama, and certainly sign me up, because that was absolutely insane to call. But with that, we'll give our unofficial race results here. Of course, this does have to be confirmed by the stewards due to investigations in the latter portion of the race. But Mikael Gard, by 2.7 seconds, wins here finally at Spa. A bit of redemption for the times that he came across the line first and didn't end up winning because of penalties being applied. Moreno Sarica in second place. Kim Eriksson is able to hold on and finish third, with Marcheno in fifth, Lapshan sixth, Mangan seventh, Gibson in eighth, Gerstenberg in P9, and Guinness will round out the top 10. The second third of the race results here. Peter Berryman strong all day, but unfortunately gets cycled back in the late race. Lorena similarly so as well. Bircher, Moon, Boyd, Sipler, Handgraf, Muth, Webster, and Abromantis will bring things down your top 20. And then you got the back third of the grid. Sirotech, Arts, Johnson, Waite, Ola, Murray, Swan, Gallo, Rudinger, and Petzoli rounding out your 30 cars here today, Will.
Thank you very much, Connery. Thank you very much, Paul. And, well, it is the Danish driver of Mikael Gard who claims himself victory then by 2.7 seconds over Marina Sirica and Kim Eriksson in third place. What a race we've had. And, of course, there's still so much more racing here to come, as we've got the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup powered by iRacing coming up next. We'll talk more about this race and, of course, preview the race coming ahead in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup in a few moments' time. But in the meantime, so long for the time being from Spa-Francorchamps.
matter of time, never look back. If something standing in my way, I always push back. When something seemed impossible, I never took that. Nah, cause now I know better. Can't stop, won't stop, I won't quit ever.
As far as won't take me, the highest fall won't break me. The blood and sweat is what made me.
I'ma get mine, just a matter of time.
Deepest waters won't take me. The highest fall won't break me. The blood and sweat is what made me.
I'ma get mine, just a matter of time.
Green flag drops, away we go from the start of this final feature race in the Porsche Esports Supercup. Brilliant launch.
40 of the best sim racers. $200,000 on the line.
Our championship winner from 2019 will take his second main race win in 2020.
Who will rise to the challenge? This is the most competitive and sought-after season in iRacing World Championship history. This is where legends are made. This is the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup.
are many tracks around the world that will always claim to be the best in motorsports, and well, this is one that surely has a shout. This is Spa in Belgium as we welcome you to race meeting number 7 for the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup by iRacing, and we welcome you to the majestic Spa-Francorchamps. And my name is Will Vincent. I'm joined for the pre-race show by Connery Maddock, as we will in a moment take a look at this beautiful racetrack. You see the sun is gleaming upon this racetrack right now, and of course that will mean that the track temperatures will be just a little bit higher for these drivers. The grip will be just a little bit lower. But we are going to show you a look at this track map right now, and after racing last week at Brands Hatch, we now head ourselves over to the Ardennes Mountains. We head ourselves over to Spa. It is one of those tracks that drivers love to race at, and of course they will start that one down at La Source, turn number 1. One of the slowest corners in all of Grand Prix racing, as we get a look at that track nestled amongst the forest right now. And of course, you've got to consider the run through the Air Rouge Raidillon complex. Left, right, then left, before you head yourself down the long Kemmel straightaway and into the two 90-degree right-hand corners. Jackie X corner along the top of your screen, and then the run through Heuer Stavelot towards the bus stop chicane, one of the best opportunities to overtake on the racetrack. If you don't do it there, well, then you can do it, of course, once again into La Com. But as I welcome in Connery Maddock to the booth, in terms of the championship right now, we have got 4 different nationalities and 4 different teams inside the top 4 of the championship, and that shows how wide open this series has been. As Sebastian Job leads away with 360 points, 14 points ahead of Joshua Rogers, 27 points ahead of Alejandro Sanchez, and 75 points ahead of Max Benecke.
Yeah, but that gap coming down for the championship lead just a little bit in that previous round at Brands Hatch, with Rogers able to take the main race wing, keeping Job on his toes for all intents and purposes. But you're quite right, Will. 4 different nationalities, represented inside the top 4. It just goes to show how truly international esports and motorsports is.
As we have a look at the feature race winners so far, Josh Rogers has won the last 2 feature races. Alejandro Sanchez, the first Spanish driver to ever win a World Championship race on iRacing back at Silverstone in July. Sebastian Job has won 2 races, and Max Benecke has won 1 so far. And let's talk about Benecke quickly, because even though he's had good results, he hasn't won a race since Barcelona back in May. And that team Redline car, the Porsche 24 powered by Redline car, has started to drop back a little bit in terms of the championship.
Yeah, he has. He's starting to get dangerously close, if not already, about 1 main race behind Sebastian Job as far as the championship points are concerned. So it's a little bit of a panic right now over the guys at Redline. Benecke, of course, one of their star performers, usually in these sorts of championships, starting to fall off the rest of the championship contenders.
Indeed. So it's worth noting, by the way, that Dane Warren has moved teams once again. So he's now part of the orange and purple, or black and red, as you want to call it, stable. And you'll see those colours come up for him as we progress through the race. Dane Warren actually had a good race last time out. In terms of our strategy for here today, Connery, I think it really is going to be how these teams can work together, because this track is a little bit like Le Mans, a little bit like the Nordschleife, where if you've got a running mate alongside you for the long straightaways from the exit of Raidillon down to Le Car, or from the exit of Stavelot down to the exit of the bus stop chicane, then you have the opportunity to really work together. So it's going to be strength in numbers once again.
I mean, we saw the absolute craziness in the race before this one, the support race, the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge, where those cars don't have much of a well, they don't punch much of a hole in the air as far as the draft is concerned, yet they were still able to keep each other together in these huge packs. And a track especially where everyone and their mother has driven in, in iRacing, throughout entirety of these guys have been here on the service. It might even be a good proportion of these guys' favorite track as well. So that means these times are just going to be so close, not just here in qualifying, but in terms of the race pace as well. That is all the recipe for keeping this close pack action going.
As ever in qualifying, it will be the top 8 inverted. So far, Joshua Rogers has 5 pole positions to his name. Of course, that meant that he had to start in P number 8 in terms of the championship. Who is going to get pole position here today? How is the field going to shake up? We're going to find out over the upcoming minutes as we head over to the commentary team of Paul Smith. But first, Martin Haven. Take it away, guys.
Well, it appears we just have a little bit of issue with Martin's microphone, so I'll join and say hello, everybody. Welcome along to the coverage then. And yeah, we've got the 3 championship contenders on screen here. Top left, Sebastian Job. Bottom left, Josh Rogers. And then the centre right, it is Alejandro Sanchez. All battling it out for pole position. And it's at this point that I will bring Martin in, because it appears that we've resolved the issues there. But Martin, those 3 drivers, they're all fighting it out for the championship, and they're all trying to get the best qualifying that they can right now.
You're right, Paul, and actually it's becoming increasingly important for those 3 guys, because it is starting to become a 3-horse race. I mean, the last 2 or 3 rounds, it has just been about these guys. Early in the season, there were wins and top 3 finishes going scattergun all over the field. I mean, 11th in the points is Graham Carroll. He was the points leader after our first race weekend at Zandvoort. And now he's only 11th. He's barely seen the points since then. And these guys have been consistent with sprint race wins, with main race wins, with getting points out of the top 5 in qualifying and just consistently banging them in there. And it's the zeros that kill you. And these are the guys that aren't posting no point scores finishes, and that's the big difference now, is that ultra hard edge consistency.
Certainly is. It's Sanchez to pole position ahead of Max Bernecke. So Max actually he's improved himself, hasn't he, Martin? That he's actually getting back up with those runners. Just as I say, that Josh Rogers at the top of the standings.
And I think that's the way it's going to be, isn't it? You know, Bernecke was fastest in the warm-up session just before qualifying started, so he might have something a little bit later. But if we don't see Sebastian Job up there, then that's going to be a really major issue, because if Josh Rogers and Alejandro Sanchez have got the pace, then Job must produce it as well. He can't allow them to keep chiseling away at that championship lead. 14 points ahead of Josh Rogers is not a lot. It only takes one little incident, one trip up, and suddenly that lead that he's had for the last nearly 2 months is gone.
Yeah, so we're getting a really good driver's eye view then of the 3 drivers up on the screen right now with the Vodafone visor cams for all 3 of those drivers. You can see they're all different parts of the track, with Job just running his way through Fania, heading towards Campos right now. Sanchez not that far behind him, and Rogers just coming through Jackie's corner. So we're going to get those 3 times all together. But I mentioned this in the Sprint Challenge race. It is so easy with track limits to get an invalidated lap. iRacing automatically will invalidate your lap if you go over those track limits, and it is brutal around this track.
And we're listening to the audio of Sebastian Job. That was clean on the exit there of Blanchimont, but it's very easy to run off wide there. He hasn't yet set a lap, which is why his position was shown as 200 millionth or something. So this is really important. Comes across the line. There's the finish line. Start line just passed. So Sebastian Job, well, he's got a time, but no, he hasn't got it. 2:18.8. So that's obviously not. Oh, that is 2:18.833. That is a good time ahead of Josh Rogers and Alejandro Sanchez. Max Benecki there as well, and Johan Hart going fifth quickest. That's an interesting left field one because Johan is a long way down the points table.
Yeah, Johan's doing a fantastic job there. Ricardo Castro-Ledo as well. He's up there in the top 6, which we've seen him in and around that top 10 throughout this series so far here. And yeah, he's found himself once again in that part of the field. We've got about 4 minutes remaining of qualifying, and of course, as with the sprint challenge, once that clock strikes 0 in qualifying here, that is it. You do not get to finish your lap.
4th and 5th in Donington, Ricardo Castro-Ledo. Then he was 8th and 10th at Silverstone, and before and afterwards he was a bit out in the nether region. So he is finding pace again. Sebastian Job with a 26 thousandths of a second advantage over Josh Rogers. This is very close indeed. And Alejandro Sanchez also within the same 10th of a second as the top 2. So it is unbelievably tight. Max Benecki a whole 10th and a half back. And bearing in mind, this isn't a 2.5 mile circuit. This is a 4 mile circuit, 7 kilometers. So this is a long lap as well. And that means that opportunities for overtaking must be seized upon because you don't come round that many times in a 15-minute race, and surprisingly few even in the 30-minute main encounter.
Yeah, it is all about taking your opportunities. Yeah, as you mentioned, that 15-minute race, that sprint race is really going to be high intensity. Try and get as many positions as you can. Mitchell de Jong, this is a man who's had a very, well, I was going to say up and down season, but it's been very down at the moment, really, for him. But he's out there on track at the moment. Currently got a 2:19.1, so he's up there in the top 10. It's worth pointing out as well, your top, in your qualifying, your top 26 are covered by 1 second, which is incredible around a track of this length.
Mitchell de Jong bailing out on that lap. 2 10th place finishes in the races in Road Atlanta a couple of weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago now. So the American faring best in America. Not that it's necessarily entirely relevant, but just a little historical interest. Mac Backham on screen. And we often talk about going down the Kemmel Straight to Les Combes here. It's not down. It's very, very, very significantly up. If you've ever walked Spa-Francorchamps, it is a heck of a cardio workout. Jeff Chiassi, the Brazilian, currently only 20th spot. Chiassi is 6th in the championship points. His best qualifying 2nd place. He was 2nd fastest in Zandvoort, not far behind Josh Rogers.
Yes, we have a look at Benecki just on the screen, but you mentioned about it being a cardio workout. That's why I walk the opposite direction of the circuit.
It's still
that
uphill.
Oh, it's still quite a workout. Is this track? That's for sure. But I don't want to go walk up Eau Rouge Radion. I want to walk down it. Want to point out as well, Tommy Erskard has just finished his lap. Race winner last year at this venue in the feature race. Qualified 9th, so he's just missing out on that top 8 inversion there.
Absolutely, that was very nearly starting on pole position. How very nearly? 11 thousandths slower than Mitchell de Jong, who is currently 8th. So, yeah, that would have made all the difference, wouldn't it? You know, as we saw half a dozen races ago now, almost, Alejandro Sanchez, you get a chance to start on the sprint race pole. If you don't really throw it away, then suddenly your weekend and potentially your season starts to look an awful lot more interesting, because if you can get into that top 8 and start at the sharp end of the grid and then get on the sprint race podium, then a main race podium is definitely a really good opportunity as well. Sebastian Job, Josh Rogers, Alejandro Sanchez. That is 1, 2, 3 in the championship, and that is 1, 2, 3 in terms of qualifying pace as well. But behind them, it'll be Mitchell de Jong and Kevin Ellis Jr., who start on the front row, ahead of Ricardo Castro-Ledo and Johan Hart. Max Benecki, Alejandro Sanchez meet in the middle. We look down into the Ardennes Forest circuit of Spa-Francorchamps. Michel de Jong then starts on pole with Kevin Ellis Jr. alongside Riccardo Castro-Loader, Johan Hart, Max Benecchi, and then the three championship contenders in their reverse order. Alejandro Sanchez, Josh Rogers, Sebastian Jobe. Well, interesting to see exactly what transpires from here. Again, Graham Carroll down on sixth row of the grid, having come in here in 10th position in the points, 11th position in the points. He needs to find a bit more pace as well in that Red Bull car. So we are ready to go racing here. It is round 7 of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup by iRacing. This is the 15-minute sprint race up and coming here. And then we will go for our 30-minute main race where you start where you finished. Decent weather at Spa, never a guarantee in real life. However, that is one of the advantages occasionally of esports competitions, is you can decide what you get. I'm Martin Haven. Paul Smith will be joining me to watch the action. And Paul, as ever, Spa hopefully will produce a big and exciting race for us.
It's all going to be down towards La Source. It's a very short run down to that first corner, a tight hairpin. So those drivers, they're going to have to be on it straight away and think about their run down towards Eau Rouge Radion and then see how they get on up towards Le Combe.
So on pole position, Michel de Jong, Kevin Ellis Jr. alongside him with the blue bonnet. Then the next red and white car, Riccardo Castro-Loader and Johan Hart. Watch down on the right, 4 rows back, the Red Bull colours of Sebastian Jobe with Josh Rogers alongside him. A long hold for the green. We're waiting for 15 minutes to begin. Away we go. Good start from the pole man, Michel de Jong, the American driver, jumping away from the field. Teammate Riccardo Castro-Loader coming down the inside of Kevin Ellis Jr. and it's 3 wide behind. Josh Rogers goes out wide. He'll get away with that. No, it wasn't Josh Rogers going out wide. Yes, it was. Comes back on in front of Sebastian Jobe, but they're both behind Alejandro Sanchez. No change between our top 3 in the championship.
Oh, we've got a car wide. That's Castro-Loader has been run wide through Rouge Radion, ended up in the wall. We're going 3 wide up the Kemmel Straight. Can we make it 4? Well, they're trying.
Max Benecchi in the middle. He's going to win this one, isn't he? Because he's sort of towards the racing line for 3rd place. Through he goes. Number 11, Max Benecchi. Sebastian Jobe with the Red Bull car. Benecchi goes in too deep. Through goes Alejandro Sanchez. He saw the opportunity. So did Sebastian Jobe. Josh Rogers. Benecchi slams the door. Josh Rogers still looking to get by. Can't get by Sanchez. Trying to dive down the inside. Wow. Crazy stuff.
Sanchez had a slowdown penalty. He cut across the inside of the second part of Le Combe. That got him an automatic slowdown penalty. He had to let some of those drivers through. So Rogers, Jobe, Benecchi, also Johan Hart as well, making their way through. Dramatic, and that's on the first quarter of the track.
And that's why Spa's a classic. You've got to love it, haven't you? This should be a 7-lap race. So let's see. Michel de Jong is the race leader, car number 24. Kevin Ellis Jr. with the blue highlights, 98 behind him. So those are the 2 that are broken away. Let's take a look at the action there, Paul, because that was a bit of a squirrely first corner.
Yeah, so you're going to look at Riccardo Castro-Loader, then the number 33 car gets a bit loose through Eau Rouge Radion, clips the wall. Everybody, great job from everybody else to avoid him having his little moment himself as we go back to live pictures. But yeah, Castro-Loader all the way down the field in 26. Matt Perez, by the way, and Marin Cholak are back in the pits. They are out of this race.
Well, they may have tangled right at the beginning of the race as well. Yeah, if you hit the curbs on the right-hand side in Eau Rouge, it's never going well for you, I'm afraid. End of the first lap of 7. Michel de Jong, Kevin, oh, and a lot of trouble behind as well. Who was that getting shoved backwards? Was that Mac Backham? Not sure. Somewhere in the teens there was trouble. Paul will find who was there and who wasn't. Alejandro Sanchez, we ride on board with him, 7th place. And he's gone back from 6th on the grid. Johan Hart in front, Josh Rogers in front of him. Rogers, yeah, don't take too much of that right-hand curb. Left-hand curb's okay, just about keeping it legal. He got a really good run there through Eau Rouge. Doesn't need to use the grass. He just slips up alongside Johan Hart. And there's not going to be enough enough space for Hart to retake him. So back up to 6 for Alejandro Sanchez. That's always the move that ends by Lecombe, but starts on the run down into Eau Rouge. Line and length is never more critical. I don't think there's a corner on the planet that rewards you better for taking it well.
It was Joshua Anderson, by the way, who had that huge moment in the background. He got tangled with the 23, which is, I'm looking at my timing screen, Usiakola. Yeah. So those two tangling at the bus stop chicane. They are still running, though. So Joshua Anderson, but he's down in 28, out of the points at the moment in the sprint race.
Yeah, he got shunted backwards well and proper, didn't he? Mitchell de Jong, Kevin Ayres Jr. half a second apart, and that doesn't vary much. And they're a second and a half away from Sebastian Job. So don't forget, Job, fastest lap in qualifying, started 8th, now up to 3rd. Max Benecchi 4th, Josh Rogers 5th, Alejandro Sanchez in 6th. So 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, those are your top 4 in the championship. For completeness, 5th in the championship is Dane Warren. Paul, I haven't got enough screen. No,
I could tell you he's not here because there's been a power outage.
Yeah, no,
he's had a power outage. So unfortunately, the Australian National Grid letting him down there.
Well, and, you know, real life is reflected in the virtual world, isn't it? Just occasionally, the car won't start in the pit lane. For some reason, it won't fire up. You don't leave the pit lane. You don't get to start the race, and that's your weekend run.
Well, look at Nico Hülkenberg at the British Grand Prix. He had the exact same thing happen to him. He couldn't start.
Looking at Mac Backham, who is just inside the top half, just outside the top dozen. Mac Backham in 16th place. David Williams right behind him. Christopher Dambeats, car number 110, behind Jamie Fluke. They come down the hill. Jared Filzel, 94. The little changes around the circuit that you'll see if you're watching Formula One this weekend, or the Porsche Mobil One Super Cup. They've replaced all the AstroTurf with concrete. They've extended the pit wall at the top and at the bottom of the straight leading down to Eau Rouge. Looking at the replay here of the incident at the bus stop a lap ago. Oh dear.
Yes, it was Anderson. He left that space open, and Yusi Yukola just decided, I'm going to fill that void there, and then all of a sudden the two of them get collected.
And Thibaut Casubon was the unfortunate who had nothing to do with that. It just came and found him. And again, you know, that's real life as well. Somebody else's accident can ruin your race just as much as it ruins theirs.
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, I've been there time and again where you're just sat behind, two guys come together, and it's a case of, well, where do I go? There's nowhere for you to go at all.
No, exactly. And it happens so quickly that even if there were somewhere, the chances of you knowing where that somewhere is and where their bits of machinery are going to fly to are very limited indeed. 110, Christopher Dambeats. Jared Filzel giving chase. And this is the battle for 13th place. So on board now with Jamie Fluke, just behind Jeremy Bouteloup. Jeremy Bouteloup's little high point of the season victory in the sprint race at Silverstone, finished in 4th place in the main race. Hasn't been able to achieve those heights since then. It's the battle for 11th place. 2600ths of a second between them. Bus stop chicane now. You sort of half forget what the old bus stop used to look like. It was a double flick of the wrists at ridiculous speed. Now then, little change in the balance of power here. Mitchell de Jong, Kevin Ellis still about half a second apart, but Sebastian Job is jumping away from the peloton and is catching the breakaway pair. Sebastian Job with the Red Bull livery pulling away from Max Benecchi. He's nearly a second clear of Benecchi, and another good run through Eau Rouge for him, and climbing this power-sapping Kemmel straight. He is still closing, and looks like Kevin Ellis is trying to put the moves in on Mitchell de Jong. He was right up behind him there into the braking area. Couldn't get alongside though.
The Kevin Ellis Jr. was a 10th quicker that that last lap than the leader, but Job was a full, what, 3.5, 4 tenths faster than the two in front of him, so he really has got the bit between his teeth. He's going for it. Jeff Giassi as well, that we're seeing on screen, battling with Bobby Zelensky.
Yeah, just went past Zelensky and left Zelensky to deal with Lockwood, who's behind him, Brian Lockwood. So Jeff Giassi didn't really do himself much of a justice in qualifying, runs out very wide. That'll definitely be adding to his track limits quota. Some of these corners aren't particularly policed in real life, but some of them are really strictly policed, and if you're not clearly at least got one wheel within the white line, then you will get pinged for that. Jeff Giassi in 18th position, long way back from where he would like to be.
That's just going about the track limits thing. I suppose that's one of the joys of having the simulation here. It can automatically police that, so you don't need to have judges of fact at corners writing a number down and missing 3 cars that have done exactly the same.
Yeah, they do that at a lot of the Motorsport Vision circuits as well, particularly at Brands Hatch. You run out wide, the computer says no. Mitchell de Jong, Kevin Ellis and Sebastian Job. That's your 1, 2, 3. Job has now joined them. In fact, he is at the line within a couple of thousandths as close to Kevin Ellis as Kevin Ellis is to Mitchell de Jong. So there's a third of a second in it, or about a car length and a half. And then Max Benecki still half a second back. Josh Rogers behind him. And the lead trio heading out to La Source. Again, this steep downhill run. And that makes the speed pick up even more terrifyingly quickly into Eau Rouge. You stay hard over to driver's right, trying to get as far to the left by the pit barrier as you can. Try not to get all 4 wheels off on the inside as you go over that left-hand brow in Lebion. And of course, it's a bit blind going up there, so you've got to judge it. Here comes the slipstream in tow from behind. But Mitchell de Jong sticking to the middle. And that means Kevin Ellis Jr. is going to run out of road, not here, but on the exit here. And Sebastian Job is looking to try and insinuate his way between them. He needs to hurry up because Max Benecki is there, 2 by 2 almost. Mitchell de Jong with the red nose now behind Kevin Ellis Jr., but Sebastian Job commits to the outside as they come around Rivage, or Bruxelles as it's now called, cuts back to the inside through the Jackie X curve, and out wide goes the former leader. Mitchell de Jong leaves the door open. Max Benecki coming down the inside into Pouhon. You have to be very cautious here. This is brave stuff, door handle to door handle, Paul Smith.
Yeah, this is millimetre accuracy, rubbing the doors in front. Josh Rogers has got the box seat right here between these two, but it's slowing these guys down to allow Job through. Here comes Rogers now.
Yep.
He's trying to take advantage of that, and he gains the position.
He does. He gets by the former leader, Mitchell de Jong, as well. He wasn't watching the action. He was trying to figure where the cars were going to go next and where he needed to be. And he chose pretty well going in and out of Piff Paff, picked up a spot. And he's got a good run going here on Max Benecki as well. So Kevin Ellis Jr. leads from Sebastian Job. Max Benecki under pressure from Josh Rogers. The question now is, where's Alejandro Sanchez? He is still in 6th. He is going to start losing touch a little with Josh Rogers at the end of this race, unless he can produce something magical.
Benecki really desperate to hold on to that podium spot at the moment. He's doing everything he can to hold Rogers back. Will Rogers dart out from behind? No, he won't. He's going to stay in the line for the time being. He wants to get that slipstream all the way up the Kemmel Straight, up towards Le Con.
Well, the question is, will he drop back enough from Max Benecki to be able to get a run on him? Because now, if he's so close behind the number 11 car, if he gets a good run here, he's going to have to feather the throttle because he won't have enough room to get round on the outside. Benecki runs out too wide. On board with Sebastian Job for the lead. And he was far back enough coming down the straight. You've got to judge these things. And the other thing that Josh Rogers will find is if he tries to pass too early, Max Benecki has enough room to tow back by him. He does so. Benecki still in 3rd, Rogers still in 4th. The big change, Sebastian Job to the lead.
Yeah, he needed to do that, did Job. He needs to get cars between him, Josh Rogers and Alejandro Sanchez for the championship. And where better to try and control a championship than right at the front of your field here. And Kevin Ellis Jr., I don't think he defended that too hard. I think he was just happy. He'll be happy to get some really good points here in second.
Yeah, and he understands as well that the guys around him are fighting for the championship, and he understands too that although he's in 7th place, his battle isn't with these guys, it's with Jeff Gyasi, Tom Usgaard, with Dane Warren. So he's, going to benefit here because he's ahead of Gyasi. Dane Warren isn't here. So for him, the points are more important maybe than trying to fight a losing battle. So Sebastian Job leads, but look at the top 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, then a tiny gap back to 5th position, Mitchell de Jong, and 6th, Alejandro Sanchez there with the blue rear end. Sanchez just over a second behind the leader. Is it possible that he could get on the podium? It might depend on what happens between 11, Max Benecchi, and 92, Josh Rogers. If that all goes a little bit pear-shaped in the last 2 laps, or the last lap, then things might come Alejandro Sanchez's way. Oh!
Yes, they're all over the curves. Benecchi is a former world champion on iRacing, so he knows how to defend and to race other drivers of that caliber, and he's showing that right now, holding that defensive line, but it's going to compromise him. There's contact for de Jong behind as well. Sanchez has turned him around, and I was about to say it checks you up into that hairpin if you take that tight inside line.
Well, Alejandro Sanchez will do well to get away with that. Now, it did look maybe as though he was on the brakes in the normal place and Mitchell de Jong braked a little early because he thought something was happening in front of him. Not sure. That will be for the race directors to decide. Sebastian Job leads in the dark blue car. Kevin Ellis right behind him. Then Max Benecchi and Josh Rogers, as they were 3rd and 4th. As you say, Paul, Benecchi maybe now almost a full race weekend behind in points, thinking, I'm just going to win races now and not even think about the championship. He came, where did he get his double race wins? He came in so late,
Barcelona.
In Barcelona, but he'd had a nightmare in Zandvoort.
Yeah.
That his championship basically started an entire weekend after everybody else's, and it sort of then juddered around to a bit of a halt as well. Alejandro Sanchez on his own in 5th. Probably with damage, and he may be getting all sorts of overheating warnings. I'm not sure he's going to catch these guys. 5th position, if he holds it, will be as much as he gets ahead of Johan Hart. This is the final lap of the race. Sebastian Job on his way to start the long climb up the hill shortly, wend our way all the way down the valley. And then as you turn right around the new university building at campus, you start the climb back up, and behind you, just there, that's the old circuit. That's where it came in, climbing all the way up from the town of Stavolo. And this is still what used to be public highway, the same track they raced in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s before the modern, shorter, but spiritually the same version was there. Sebastian Job heads into the bus stop chicane for the final time. Kevin Ellis Jr. will be 2nd. Max Benecchi completes the podium. Josh Rogers in 4th. Alejandro Sanchez in 5th position. And Johan Hart finishes our sprint race in 6th. So that is how they will start in our 2nd race, the main feature event here at Spa. Well, let's take a look now and see if we can figure out what happened with Kevin Ellis Jr., I beg your pardon, with our pole sitter and with Alejandro Sanchez when he got up behind him. See if we can get the replay from the track. Meanwhile, let's take a look at our results. Victory for Sebastian Job ahead of Kevin Ellis and Max Benecchi, Josh Rogers, Alejandro Sanchez, and Johan Hart. Usgaard, a winner here last year in 7th. And the top 10 rounded out by Graham Carroll and Jerome Bouteloup. Jamie Fluke just outside that, and that battle with Filzel Backham, Dan Beats and the rest. Jeff Gyasi, only 16th position. Not great news for him. Came in here 6th in the championship. Dane Warren 5th in the championship. Didn't get to the starting grid. So very disappointing for him as well. Josh Anderson turned round early in the race. no start from Dane Warren. Well, Paul, it was entertaining stuff as you come to expect at Spa. I don't know how it is that 15 minutes seems to pass much faster at Spa than anywhere else. Is there some specific time zone here in the Ardennes that we don't know about?
I think we need to get a certain doctor from the BBC to have a look at this area, that's for sure. But it is a spectacular venue. It's a classic circuit, and I think this is one of the best versions of one of the circuits where they cut out the old long circuit. By the way, if you ever go to Spa-Francorchamps, please do go and drive along the old public roads of the old circuit. But we're going to have a look at that incident then with Mitchell de Jong and Alejandro Sanchez down at La Source at the start of that last lap on the Vodafone replay. So we're heading in towards turn number 1 at La Source. You've got the battling of Beneke and Rogers in front, and then onto the brakes. I think de Jong just checks up because of Rogers turning in there.
Yeah, they both turn in at the same speed. Alejandro Sanchez behind him wasn't coming in hard from behind. On board with Sanchez. And watch the gap between him and de Jong just in front. On the brakes now. They're both on the brakes. Off the brakes. But de Jong is not off the brakes, you're right. Yeah. And so I'm assuming that Alejandro Sanchez will get to keep that 5th position. I think that would be a fairly harsh decision if he didn't.
Yeah, I think it'd be fairly harsh as well. Thank you very much, guys. Martin Haven, Paul Smith there on the commentary for the sprint race here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup on iRacing. I'm Conor Matic. I'll keep Paul in with me here just to talk a little bit before we get our main race started. But an absolutely fantastic result once again from Sebastian Job here in this event, as we'll get another little angle on this little incident that we had towards the end of the event, which put Mitchell de Jong down a huge amount of spots there, which is unfortunate there, Paul, because he was looking for a little bit of inspiration coming in through the back end of the season. Remember, he was a championship contender at the end of last season, but this season has just been an absolutely horrendous affair for him.
Well, if he doesn't have any luck, then it's just bad luck is what he has right now. But you can see Rogers taking that late apex has caused de Jong to just check up there. I personally think that's just a racing incident, but of course I'm not a race steward in this, so that'll be up to the race stewards to look at that afterwards. But yeah, it's just unfortunate situation where you see Rogers just taking that tight apex late on has caused de Jong just to check up that little bit, and Sanchez really had nowhere to go there.
Yeah, of course, you know, in this series, the race incidents will be investigated after the race. But just to have a little bit of a reminder of how things work here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup, we had a bit of a qualifying session early on with 3 flying laps. We've just had the sprint race, 15 minutes. The top 8 from qualifying get themselves reversed for the grid of the previous race. And now we head in to the main event, the feature race. 30 minutes here of Spa, and a lion's share of the points on offer for this race. 50 points to the race winner, 45 for second, 40 to third, and the breakdown drops off sharply after that. You've also got prize money with $1,000 to the race winner of this next race, Paul, and I think as a result, it was we're going to have quite a few more fireworks coming towards the end of the main race. I get the feeling that at the end of the sprint race, a lot of drivers just sort of consolidated position and just tried to get their spot up the grid for this event. So they weren't really going hammer and tong into the final sectors of the final time. But in this main race, there's no concerns about that.
Yeah, this certainly is going to be an intriguing second part of this event here, but I just think that Job has helped himself out, get the words out, Paul, so much by getting to the front of that field and having Rogers down in 4th place. So that meant he was able to gain 7 points over Joshua in that session. Of course, Josh Rogers did Well, he did set the fastest qualifying time No, it was Job who set the fastest qualifying. Apologies. So again, qualifying bonus. That was an extra 2 points over Rogers as well, with Sanchez third in the qualifying. So Job is trying to make some moves here, trying to make some money moves here to get himself a good bit of chunk of points over his two championship rivals. However, we've seen it time and again in this series, because it is so close between all these competitors. One little mistake, as we saw with Sanchez getting his slowdown penalty, that drops you down the field.
Especially at this track with racing like this, it is so close. Like you quite rightfully mentioned, you make that one error and you've got about 5 cars that are trying to get through on your inside. So it's an absolutely impossible situation to be in. So you have to be so careful, especially if you're one of those front-running cars, one of those championship contending cars, shall we say. But we've got about 3 minutes left remaining before we get to the grid for the main feature race. I just want to say, what a good job Kevin Ellis Jr. did in that sprint race. Of course, started in that second spot, but he was able to hold on, and an exemplary drive, especially up against that tough competition.
Yeah, he did a great job, kept on the pressure, and he went for it on the last lap as well. So good job by Kevin. We'll see more in the second race.
Yep, we will as well, as we'll get ourselves ready and set for that one. We'll go for a very quick break, but we'll be back with the main race in just a couple of moments' time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. We've just had the sprint race of 15 minutes here at Spa-Francorchamps, and we're just about to head into the 30-minute feature. I'm Connery Maddock, and your commentary team will be Martin Haven and Paul Smith. We're about a minute away from getting the gridding procedure underway here for round number 7 of the championship. And Paul, there's a little bit of tension in the air, I feel.
Yeah, this is now starting to get towards the make or break part of the championship, and you've got different circuits coming up with unique properties to each of them. I'm looking forward to this one. This could be a big deal in this whole championship outcome this next 30 minutes.
So with the gridding imminent, I'll hand you over to the commentary team of Martin Haven and Paul Smith. Take it away, guys.
Thank you, Connery, and welcome back to the grid here at Spa-Francorchamps. Blue skies overhead. It's a wonderful world when you get blue skies at Spa. It's been very hot summer, actually, in Spa, so expect to see that change now that Formula One has arrived for the real world weekend. Meanwhile, in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup here, heading into this 30-minute main encounter, and they start the main race as they finished the sprint. Sebastian Job, our points leader, extended his advantage a fraction over his closest rivals, Josh Rogers and Alejandro Sanchez. He will start on pole. Kevin Ellis Jr. alongside him. Max Benecchi third, Josh Rogers, the reigning champion, in fourth. Alejandro Sanchez in fifth position. And looking further on down the order, Tommy Østgaard was a winner here last year. Graham Carroll a winner already this year. Jamie Fluke on Jared Filzell on row 6 of the grid. And a little further back, Jeff Gyasi needs to find a bit more pace. The Brazilian losing ground to his closest championship rival, Kevin Ellis Jr., who's finished in second place and starts second again. Now, after 7 laps in the first race, this should be a 13-lap race. If it all goes lightning fast and smoothly, who knows, we might get onto a 14th. Dane Warren had a power outage back home, is not on the grid, unfortunately for him. So Martin Aben and Paul Smith ready for the action here. Sebastian Job on pole, Kevin Ellis Jr. alongside. Can Josh Rogers get to the championship leader and the pole man? Away we go. Not a good start from Josh Rogers. Alejandro Sanchez, blue and turquoise car, looking to go down the inside. Still looking to go down the inside into the hairpin at La Source. He's alongside. And Josh Rogers runs out a little wide. It is a start for Sebastian Job that will keep him ahead of his rivals, though. Kevin Ellis battling with Max Benecchi, door handle to door handle. Benecchi on the right-hand side pulls out of that, runs out very wide. Doors open for Josh Rogers. Rogers will be third before they get off the brakes at Les Combes. No, he won't. Didn't have the slingshot. Alejandro Sanchez might try something here. Benecchi with the orange nose goes right. Rogers goes outside him. Can he cut back on the inside and still keep it on the island? No, you always lose traction on those curves. Kevin Ellis Jr. down to third. Max Benecchi up to second. Paul Smith, you can have a word in edgeways. I think I'm running out of breath.
Ellis Jr. just got a slow down penalty as well. That's why he's had to drop back from second. So it's now Benecchi ahead of Sanchez and Rogers. Big drama. I thought Rogers was pushing it very hard into Les Combes. Look at how close they're all getting throughout the field. This first lap, if they're going to go like this for the remainder of the race, me and Martin's going to have no voice left.
Well, the other thing is somebody in 20th place will end up winning because all the leaders are just picking up off-track penalties left, right and centre, aren't they? Running out so wide there at the Jackie Hicks curve down the hill towards Pouhon. Can't believe that they all managed to avoid the barriers. Sweeping through Piff Paff. Whoa! Again, somebody there jumping over the chicane.
And Patrick Holtzman. Yeah,
the problem with that is
Sedgwick.
problem with that is trying to slow down and steer on the grass is not as efficient as doing it on the tarmac. You tend to come up back on as an unguided missile. Jeff Gyasi running out very wide there as they start the climb from Curve Paul Frere, named after the great Belgian journalist who passed away a few years ago. Not only a good journalist, he also won Le Mans, yes, and finished on the podium for Ferrari at Spa. Oh, different times when Ferrari had a podium finishing car. Battles all the way down the order here. Graham Carroll, number 21, right in the thick of it there in 10th place with Jeremy Bouteloup, Jamie Fluke, Martin Kronker ahead, Mac Backen behind, but it is Sebastian Job that leads as they go too wide behind Graham Carroll, Fluke and Backen. How's that going to work as they come out of the hairpin at La Source?
Something's happened to Bouteloup. He's dropped down my timing streak.
Yeah, down to 21st and below. Has he gone into the pits?
No, he's not gone into the pits. I think he's had an instant either at the bus stop chicane or at La Source by the looks of things, just on the timing strain. I was going to mention Sebastian Job needs to do all he can to try and pull away at the front. He did have a 1 second gap, but that slipstream has meant that Benecchi is getting closer to now just 3/4 of a second back.
Exactly right. He's towing the entire field up the hill, basically. It's like being a solo breakaway cyclist. You're doing all the work in the air, and worse than that, the turbulent air behind you is actually less difficult for the guy behind to push through. So Benecchi is closing. And then Sanchez up to third ahead of Rogers, but was very wide. Extime Radiant. Let's take a look here, coming up to the bus stop. Oh, up to the hairpin at La Source, rather. Oh! Well, that's what happened to Jeremy Bouteloup. Tagged into a spin.
And how close was he to collecting Jeff Gyasi as well? Almost the instant party again there at the La Source corner. But it's something that's so easily done. We've seen that now twice, haven't we? With 2 cars going into the back under braking. And these drivers just got to be a little bit careful around their compatriots into these hard braking zones.
And the problem is you come from such high speed around most of the circuit down to first gear and about 50 kilometers an hour. And suddenly the distances just catch you out, don't they?
Yeah.
Climbing the hill here then as we start the long climb up through the long left, corner 17, and then the big left-hander at Blanchimont. Very intimidating corner. Still power, foot to the boards, powering up the hill. You can see chopping around in the background the blue nose of car number 21, Graham Carroll, looking for a way through. Oh! That wasn't clever.
Oh, that's even less clever, is that?
In fact, that wasn't Carroll, was it? That was Holtzman's car, and that was into the back of Jared Filzel, I think.
Yes, it was Filzel, yeah. And, well, the rest got collected there in all of that shenanigans at the bus stop. And, I mean, Filzel's rejoining the middle of the bus stop, maybe not the most ideal. Just cut across and take me into the left-hand side of the track afterwards.
And just hope that there's nothing in the way. On board with Jeff Chiassi. Not a bad line, nice and clean and legal there through Eau Rouge over Rédillon and starting this monster climb up the Kemmel Straight, where in the slipstream you can see the car in front now start to just close a fraction, but Chiassi didn't have as good a run as the car in front of him there, which is David Williams in 12th place. Looking back towards our leaders, Sebastian Job, Max Benecchi with the orange nose, and then the blues of Alejandro Sanchez. Josh Rogers in 4th, and at the moment that would sort of undo the damage that Rogers did to Sanchez in race 1, but still Sebastian Job with the upper hand. Job scoring more in qualifying, more in race 1 than either of his two closest, in fact than any of his championship rivals, because he was at the top of the pile in both. So it's been a good weekend so far at Spa-Francorchamps. Let's hope that's not the commentator's curse on him.
Yeah, I'm always careful what I say about drivers, especially when they're having a good run of things, but Sebastian just seems to be really in a zone around here today. He really seems to be just hitting his marks absolutely perfectly and getting his lines right, getting the braking right, turning in. But we've got to remember, this track, it's a long old track, it's a 30-minute race. You've got that element of tyre preservation that you've got to do here. Although the track temperatures, I can tell you, 22 degrees, it's quite chilly. It's about right for Spa-Francorchamps, actually, isn't it, that track temperature?
Or North Yorkshire, yeah, exactly. Yes, it's autumn. That's absolutely the height of summer. That's why it's perishing and everybody's got a coat on. So again, the leaders all together, and right behind the top 4, Kevin Ellis Jr. I was just trying to do a little bit of mental arithmetic. Ellis came in here in 7th place. Jeff Chiassi, 6th, is 20 points ahead of him, and Dane Warren 5th in the points, not starting this weekend. He had a power outage at home and couldn't join qualifying. And that means that Kevin Ellis Jr. will be very close indeed to moving up to 5th place in the championship if he can just finish where he is. And that will be a heck of a jump for him. And unfortunately, Dane Warren is not going to recover from those 0 scores this weekend.
Yeah, he's been quietly going about his business, as Kevin, as here we go with the replay then. The Vodafone replay of, well, the shenanigans that happened at the bus stop chicane. So it's Jared Filzel, the Apex Racing Team driver. He's taking the wider line in and, well, just snowplow into the back of him from the Red Bull car of Holtzman. And then Sedgwick is an innocent part of getting involved with, I believe it was Thomas Tetteler who was involved in that one as well. So, yeah, bit of innocent party action happening once again, but carnage, I think is the word I would use down there.
Yeah, Patrick Holtzman somehow managed to hang on, number 27, but in real life, he would have been parked and sent home with a flea in his ear. Christopher Dambeek's right behind him, car number 110 for the German driver, and Jared Filzel there as well, who got snow ploughed off the circuit by Patrick Holtzman. It wasn't actually Filzel that Holtzman was trying to pass. I think it was Bobby Zelensky, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he misbraked behind Bobby Zelensky and ran into the car that was ahead of both of them, which was the unfortunate Jared Filzel, who was minding his own business, and then suddenly he was looking down at tarmac instead of straight ahead at the corner.
It's always concerning when you're looking at tarmac from the driving seat of a car, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's unfortunate with the design of this car, that with it being a rear-engine car, the front is quite low down. It just seems to hook in underneath it. Look at this, Rogers and Sanchez now. They're starting to fight. Oh, Sanchez is off.
Now, was there contact from Josh Rogers, or did Alejandro Sanchez just get in too hot under braking? That could be a championship breaker for Sanchez. Worked so hard in race 1, worked so hard in race 2, was on the podium. But equally, if Josh Rogers gets a penalty for that, that could be a championship breaker for both of them. 3 races remain, the Nürburgring, Le Mans and Monza, with 85 points a weekend. Before we started qualifying, there were 255 points still available, and the leader only has 360 coming in here. Well, let's take a look again, Paul.
Yeah, this is, I think this is going to be too close to call just from one look, but here they are into the breaker. So Rogers is looking, Sanchez is just taking his normal line, and then I mean, the behaviour of that car, the way it suddenly went around like that, it looks almost like there was contact.
It did. I think he turned in and Rogers' nose was still on the inside. Rogers did not have an overlap really, and Sanchez, you know, if you're in real life, these cars are left-hand drive. You get the wings of your seat, you get your hands device, your helmet that gets in the way, you can't see it all. Jussi Jääkelä leading this little train down the hill. Jussi Jääkelä, 23 car. And this is the battle just for 20th place, so still well in the points. Perez, 22 machine, in 22nd place rather, number 14. There is the 42 car, Matti Kaivisoja. On board with him. Now a little further back in the train, this is Valtteri Alander. So Valtteri is in 23rd place, Marc Perez just in front. Nice early upshift there from Valtteri. Here's the torque of the motor. You don't have 400 odd horsepower under your right foot and not use that torque as well. And then pulling all the way up the hill. The old road comes in on your left, just there. You look back at some of the early footage of the 60s, you will realise that the racetrack is about 4 times as wide now as it used to be there. Not just the tarmac, but all the areas around it. No more barbed wire and fences and trees right up by the side of the circuit. Sebastian Job still our race leader from Max Benecki. And nothing between the top four all covered by just 2 seconds. And battles down the order are equally tight.
Yeah, you mentioned about barbed wire, trees and lamp posts, people's houses as well, lined the side of that track. Incredible to think that there were motor racing around there when you look back at it now with what we know now. But still, it is a spectacular venue. As here's Graham Carroll then making a move on Jamie Fluke, and well, to the other side, we've got Matt Backham trying to have a look to the inside as well.
And coming around the outside, David Williams in 31. Does he get a place? He doesn't. And Jamie Fluke in 49 has been a bit of the stopper in the bottle here. They're all stuck behind him. They can't get by. Graham Carroll now running out of patience into the long right-hander at Rivage. Named after Beau Rivage, little village at the top of the hill. And then diving down through the Jackie X curve and plunging down the hill again. When we talk about the climb up the Keble Straight being steep, this is equally steep, but you just dive down the hill through Prouan, that fast double left-hander, and then hanging on the exit here, trying to keep it legal just, and then down to Pif Paf. And again, this middle element here, sector 2 of the track, so demanding of the aerodynamic grip of the cars, the tyre grip of the cars. A very hard circuit on tyre wear, this track. Sector 1 and 3, you want low drag. You don't particularly need a lot of downforce. Sector 2 is just the opposite. You need all the wing you dare carry. But of course, more wing for Sector 2 means you slow up all the hills, and unless you have a big horsepower advantage, that is tough to get away with. And watch the car behind us getting closer now. Graham Carroll creeping in. If we look back further, Jamie Fluke, Graham Carroll, Matt Backham, David Williams, Jeff Chiassi, Bobby Zaletsky, Patrick Holtzman, almost on the back of this train now. And Carroll outbrakes himself. Through goes Jeff Chiassi. Mistake under braking by Graham Carroll. Or was that
was
Holtzman? That
Holtzman.
was Holtzman
Yeah.
again out braking himself. This time didn't hit anybody though.
Yeah, he's having issues with that bus stop chicane, isn't he? He's not finding it the best way around there, around the rest of the traffic. But yeah, Christopher Van Beets and Jared Filsell able to make their way past Patrick. So at least Jared has made himself back in front of Patrick after that incident a few laps ago at the bus stop chicane. So a little bit of redress going on there between those two.
Again, look at how squirrely these cars get as they come over that big rise. You're in this huge compression coming up the hill from Eau Rouge. It's almost like you hit a brick wall head on and the car is crushed into the tarmac, and then you pop out over the top and it gets all light and floaty and it slithers around. If you haven't got the line right, it is still the mother and father of all accidents waiting for you. It still fully gets your attention in any car. Well, there's nowhere easy on this run in to the championship decider, is there? Next time out, they'll be at the Nürburgring on the full Nordschleife, one of the most terrifying racetracks you could possibly imagine. Jackie Stewart used to call it the Green Hell, and that name has been gleefully adopted. So that will be Saturday, September the 5th, and then 3 weeks after that, we head back to the Circuit de la Sarthe to Le Mans for the penultimate round of the series before heading to the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. That will be on October the 10th for the season finale. Will we have a champion crowned by then? It seems unlikely, to be honest, that anybody is going to break away in the next 2 races. Let's take a look back, Paul.
Yeah. So this is Sanchez then. No, sorry, that's not Sanchez. That's the 42 car.
Yeah, that was behind him, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that was
Cadisoja.
Cadisoja. Yeah. So getting collected at Rivage so easily done. If you just look again, drivers, if they don't take that tighter line when they've got somebody behind, that open door is tempting to so many other drivers to be able to have a little put the nose down there, and you send yourself off when you close that door around there. But I was just going to mention about the championship, if last season is anything to go by, it is going to go down to that final race, let alone the final round, the final race of the championship.
Yeah, I think that's likely to be the case. We've seen so many reversals of fortune, haven't we? Top 3 breaking away now from Kevin Ellis Jr. This is still anybody's race with 13 minutes on the clock. Now, on board with 211, Thibaut Casubon. And I think it's that Valtteri Allender right in front of us, dives to the inside. And the problem there is you get on the curbs and you drift out wide. Allender couldn't help himself from running out wide because the car is unsettled. And unfortunately, also, when you head down into Pouhon there, if you're just slightly too late in turning in, the road is still falling away from you and you just drift out wide and leave the door open. So Cadisoja and Allender getting together there, and Cadisoja not exactly coming off best. Back with our...
I was going to mention these 3 at the front now. Half a second covering the 3 of them. All of a sudden, business is picking up at the front. We've still got 12 minutes of this race remaining. So I think Beneke has said, it's either Beneke saying, right, I've had enough of being sat here in second, I want to get to the front, or Sebastian Job just trying to pace himself a bit, not use up his tyres too much, to then have a second push towards the end of the race.
Yeah, to have something to defend with is always devoutly to be wished. So looking back from Sebastian Job, that's your top 3 on the right hand side of your picture. And Josh Rogers is tail end Charlie in this trio, and he's in the best position because he's picking up a double tow. Whenever one or the other pulls out, then you still get just as effective a tow from the 2 cars as you do when they're in line astern. So it's a double-edged sword because his wings aren't working as well, his aero isn't working as well, his temperatures will be starting to climb a little, brake and engine temperatures, because the cooling air isn't linear, it's turbulent and it doesn't work so well. But what it does give him is great straight line speed, greater than them. What it doesn't give him is more grip. It actually reduces his grip in sector 2. So he needs to capitalise here, up the Kemmel Straight, climbing up behind. Here we go, here we go. He's getting close. This could be just enough to make a pass on Max Benecke, or at least to have a go. Benecke goes far right, and Sebastian Job, the leader, takes the racing line. Rogers behind on the outside, has the grip to get it slowed down, but Max Benecke was just about able to hang on there. However, that goes exactly to show you that that double slipstream means that Josh Rogers is in the driving seat now. And more important even than that, nobody is behind him. Kevin Ellis Jr. is a full second back very nearly, and he's got problems of his own. He's not worried about Josh Rogers. He's worried about Johan Hart, Tommy Østgaard and Alejandro Sanchez, who is closing on the sixth place man Østgaard. So right now, with that white, red and black car, Josh Rogers, rather than Sebastian Job, is the man who may end up dictating the podium.
Did you notice how as soon as Sebastian Job pulled out there and Benecke went to the right-hand side to defend, Sebastian Job moved over at the front of that queue to give Benecke that slipstream. He does not want Joshua Rogers right behind him in this queue of traffic. He'd rather have Benecke acting as a buffer between the two of them. So he's thinking tactically here is Sebastian to try and keep Max between the two of them.
You're exactly right. He'd rather Benecke, who's further behind him in points, had 45 and Josh Rogers only had 40. The other element of that is that if you're on your own, whether you're in front or behind, the slipstream isn't working for you. When he is in front, directly in front of Max Benecke, it actually reduces the drag on his car fractionally, so his car is slowed down less. That's why, having moved over, he then saw Benecke's move back in front of Benecke, which helps Job keep the speed in his own car as well. Two cars together work quicker than one. Down the inside, Josh Rogers. Now then, can he just ease Benecke out wide? Well, he gives him racing room. Josh Rogers with a slight overlap down into Eau Rouge. He's got the move done. Benecke is going to be very brave indeed to come back through on the inside there. Rogers has the line, and Benecke is going to run out of room. All four wheels off on the inside and the outside, and avoids the tyre barriers, but that was really well judged by Josh Rogers. That started on the run into the bus stop, where he came out close enough to have that dive down the inside into La Source, and Benecke slipstreams his way by. Can he hold it?
Oh no!
No, he can't. Contact, and they are both off, and suddenly things are looking much better for Alejandro Sanchez.
Well, I'm sorry, Max, but I don't think that move was on at all at Lecombe. He's come from way back, missed the apex completely, and with him then trying to take the line, he's collected Rogers between the two of them. My goodness, I'm sure we'll get a replay of that, that's for sure, but that is dramatic because that's dropped Rogers down to 6th place behind Sanchez. Sebastian Job now 2 seconds ahead of second place manager Kevin Ellis Jr.
Yeah, that was, unfortunately, it was always going to happen. Benecke came in so late, and I'm sure Josh Rogers was doing all he could to stop and let him overshoot in front of him, but at some stage he had to turn in, the car was still there. So Benecke on the inside curbs at Lecombe, again, it's never a good look. Never a good look. That does not work well. You are actually better off trying to straight line it, take the penalty, and come back on. It certainly would have cost him and Josh Rogers much less time. But for Sebastian Job, that was just a gift-wrapped present, wasn't it? I mean, it couldn't have been better than that. His two of his three closest championship rivals off in the same incident.
Yeah, it's...
and Rogers has got a problem, hasn't he? He's got damage because he's being really pushed around by Martin Krunker, and Krunker in the number 5 car trying to come up and actually take another place off him to move up to 6. So there's Sebastian Job, the leader, and a long way clear here with just under 7 minutes to go.
Rogers has got significant damage to the right-hand side of his car, so he'll have either some form of steering damage, but certainly the aerodynamics will be massively affected. So that means that going up the Kemmel Straight, well, so much of this track, you're on full throttle for so long, that high speed matters, especially down in towards Eau Rouge and then up through the Kemmel Straight and also at Blanchimont as well. So these guys, Josh Rogers is going to be hemorrhaging speed, and this is going to allow the others to go. But here we go with the replay again, Martin.
Yeah, and we're on board with Max Benecke. Rogers is almost half a car in front. Benecki's saying, I've got the inside, I'm coming through, but he can't hold the line. He has to have a big breathe off the throttle. So the deal is done. He keeps his foot buried in here. He picks up the toe again. And now he's going, right, I was in front, although he wasn't in his head. He believes he had the line. Now he's going to go super late. Watch the brake lights. He's still hard on the gas as the brake lights come on. And Benecki goes straight across the nose of Josh Rogers. And unfortunately, when you bounce on the inside curbs there, you have no control of where the car's going to end up, because 2 of the tyres are on the tarmac, the other 2 are basically floating around in the air, and there's just not the grip there to deal with it. Which then means that Sebastian Job leads from this lot. And this lot is Kevin Ellis Jr., Johan Hart, Tommy Østgaard, last year's winner, and Alejandro Sanchez. So this is 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. I don't think Sanchez thought that was going to come his way in a hurry. The question is, can he actually work his way up the queue here in another 2.5 laps?
Well, he's been sat there for a long time, pretty much the whole race right now. I know that Alex Simpson, the Apex Racing team boss, will be watching this nervously because 2 of his drivers, Ellis Jr. and Johan Hart, are together in 2nd and 3rd place. So he'll be looking at that and wanting to get those 2 not to fight between them. By the way, Benecki is back with Rogers. This could be interesting. Rogers a little bit loose through the middle of the chicane, trying to get the drive out the corner. Rogers needs to be smart here. He can't afford to get involved in any shenanigans with Max. He needs to just race his own race. He's got damage to pick up as many points as possible.
Yeah, Max will have damage as well, but you're right, Rogers has got damage on both sides at the front, and whatever he can get out of this is better than a retirement or a ban, so he has got to be cautious. Of course, the problem is Benecki's having none of it, and so it's going to be very tough for Josh Rogers to put in a clean pass inside 4 minutes. So it'll be this plus 1 more here at Spa-Francorchamps. They're lapping just under a 2-minute 20 lap at race pace now.
You can see that Rogers is still dropping away from Benecki, even in the slipstreamers. Look at how close Sanchez is getting now.
Yeah, diving to the inside of Tommy Østgaard as they come down the hill. Østgaard gets the door shut. Well, Sanchez has been closing on this group right from the beginning, and now he's been stuck behind Østgaard for a lap or 2. And of course, Østgaard, well, although he isn't particularly high up in the championship order, only 8th coming in here, he's got a teammate who is. And so actually holding up Alejandro Sanchez will be good for Østgaard and good for his teammate Josh Rogers.
Yeah, he certainly will be playing the team game. Østgaard will have the team boss in the ear, will be certainly trying to tell him, look, keep Sanchez behind, just so we can lose as little points as possible, and so he will defend that for all it's worth right here. But Østgaard, certainly he's not no slouch, that's for sure, and that team, they've picked him for a reason. He is a very, very capable driver, and he can win races when he needs to, or he can defend like everything is on the line here.
And he had enough last year to win this race as well, so yeah, you're absolutely right. If Alejandro Sanchez does manage to get any further up the order, then it'll be possibly a last lap lunge. 2 minutes to go. Ooh, so the lead has already started, so we will get to the timing line. Just a few seconds to go on the clock. I wonder how few. Can Sebastian Job reduce the laps that his rivals will have to try and score even 1 more point? That would be devoutly to be wished. If he can slow down enough to not have to do another lap, then it's better for him and worse for his rivals.
But he doesn't want to slow down too much because he's only got a 2.5 second gap between him and Ellis Jr. So as here comes Sanchez once again, looking to the outside in the background of that shot, and well, can Sanchez make the move?
Here we go. Sanchez gets turned around for a second time by an identically coloured car. So Alejandro Sanchez now being passed by Martin Kroenke. So he's back where he started. Got turned around by Josh Rogers at La Source early in the race, gets turned around by Tommy Usgaard late in the race. He will not be sending any Christmas cards in their direction, I don't think. Neither of those actually needed to happen if the other driver had given racing room. In both cases, Alejandro Sanchez was turned around in the rear quarter, so he was pretty much fully ahead here.
Yeah, so you see this on the replay then, on the brakes. Well, they're not even turning in at that point to the corner either, so they've come together in a straight line.
I need to see that again from that angle, because actually it looked like there was no contact, so I will withdraw possibly that second protest. However, 10 seconds to go. No, we won't have to do another lap because he's got enough in hand that he can make sure that time has elapsed, Sebastian Jobe. It has now. This is the last lap up the hill for the final time towards the bus stop, approaching at around 160 miles an hour, down through the gears to around a 50 kilometre an hour minimum here. And the checkered flag is in sight, the finish line, and victory for Sebastian Jobe. He took pole, he won the sprint, he won the main race. It is a clean sweep, maximum point weekend for him.
Kronka.
And
what
Martin
happened to Kronka? The last chicane, something's happened to him. He's dropped from, fifth place down to, where is that in the end there for Kronka? Is it 11th?
Well, my timing has been dead for 6 laps, so I couldn't tell you. We'll take a look again at that as I try and get the timing screen to update past lap 6. However, at the moment, Sebastian Jobe is our race winner. See what we can pick out of the bones of that. So Kevin Ellis Jr. taking second, Johan Hart in third. Big weekend for Sebastian Jobe. Big weekend for Kevin Ellis Jr. Tommy Usgaard, Alejandro Sanchez, and Max Benecchi. So Sanchez finishing, or seen to finish, in 5th position despite that contact. Josh Rogers down to 7th. Ahead of Jamie Fluke, Graham Carroll, and David Williams. So there have been some post-race penalties, I think, there. Martin Kronka, where then is last year's winner? He has been, Tommy Usgaard in 4th place. No, so he's still, 4th there. No, I'm looking too far down the order. So there is the rest of it. And that's going to make interesting reading in the championship. Josh Rogers loses more ground in 2nd. Alejandro Sanchez loses more ground in 3rd. Max Benecchi loses more ground in 4th. Dane Warren loses ground in 5th. Jeff Gyasi picks up a bit in 6th. But Kevin Ellis Jr. is, like Sebastian Jobe, the big winner here this weekend. Let's take a look again at what happened to the 5 car of Martin Kronka. Alejandro Sanchez trying to go the long way around the outside. Oh dear. Not great.
That's all a bit unnecessary, is that really, isn't it? That was a desperation move if I've ever seen one there. And
I think Sanchez feeling pretty aggrieved by that stage of the race, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. What had happened in there?
Well, I either upset with Usgaard if there was contact, or with himself if there wasn't, and just desperate to try and pick up something on the final lap. And again, the outside-inside move at the bus stop, it's a little bit like the first corner at Silverstone, final corner at Silverstone. You know, you've just got to get it right. Otherwise, there's lots of bodywork damage and visits to the steward's office. However, all right, here we go. Josh Rogers and Max Benecchi down into Eau Rouge. This is about 3 from home. Josh Rogers kept it clean, didn't he? Just about there. Max Benecchi basically went from hard shoulder to central reservation and back. And then this smacks just a little of desperation. This is the last of the late breakers and then some. Gets on the curb here, and it just spits him straight off. You saw there, the car just basically was fired off the curbs towards the barriers on the outside. And unfortunately for Josh Rogers, he was still in the way. And that's inevitable. As soon as you hit those curbs on the driver's left at the top of the hill there, then there you go. Well, that's it for our Spa action. But let's hear again with Will and Paul and get a bit of post-race analysis and hear what our drivers thought of all of that.
Well, thank you, Martin. Thank you, Paul. What a dramatic race here at Spa. It always likes to bring in some form of drama along the way. Over the years, it's brought us so much entertainment, but here today, there's a couple of very interesting moments. I think the biggest one will go down to be the battle between Cronke and also, not Cronke, sorry, Rogers and also Beneke. So we've got a replay up on your screen here, Connery.
Yeah, we absolutely do. Involving the number 58 car. Of course, that was Tommy Østgaard in that instance. He had this little bit of a tangle with Alejandro Sanchez coming into Lecum for one of the final times there, and it's been a bit of a tumultuous race there for Sanchez, making contact with a good couple of cars here today. But like he said, though, well, that incident between Rogers and Beneke might have been a big element in deciding which way this championship is going to go.
Yeah, and I was looking at this one in super slow-mo whilst the crew of Martin and Paul were commentating that. What I noticed, Connery, was that all four wheels for Max Beneke were off the track as they worked through Le Cam. And a part of that was he came from about 3 car lengths back heading into that corner. So he didn't overshoot the corner, tried to get it back together, but then afterwards, basically, as he tried to come back onto the track, that's when he made contact with Joshua Rogers. And that's one where I am really glad that I'm not one of the people like Tyler Hudson. He's having to do all the post-race admin and looking at these incidents.
Yep, we'll absolutely have to see after this event and for the stewards to have a look at all the incidents that happened in these two races and decide what punishment is, if any, is necessary to be handed out. And of course, those will be updated by the time we get to the next race at the Nordschleife here, Will.
Yeah, indeed so. And with that, we're going to say thank you very much to all of you watching. Don't forget, we're back in 1 week's time as we head ourselves back to the legendary Nürburgring Nordschleife. It is going to not be a timed race, but a race based upon laps. The main reason for that is because, well, it's the Nordschleife. The laps are so long around there that you might as well just do it by lap count anyway. The last 3 rounds of the championship are the Nordschleife, Circuit de la Sarthe, and we end our journey at the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. With that, we're going to say thank you very much to everyone who's been a part of our broadcast here today. For Paul Smith and Martin Haven on commentary, for Connery Maddock for the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge, and myself, Will Vincent. So long from Circuit Spa-Francorchamps, and we'll see you in a week's time at the Nordschleife. Goodbye from Spa.